Good afternoon. Right now I'm in my office. I've got a cup of coffee. I've got my Bible opened here to the Psalms. And I've also got Tristan in the background watching a show on my telephone, so you could probably hear that in the background. But I just wanted to do a couple things with this video. One, I wanted to ask for prayers because next Tuesday, my wife Yasmin is going to be going to Portland. I'm going to be taking her to the hospital, and she's going to be having some tumors, some cancerous tumors, some malignant tumors removed from her bladder. And this isn't the first time that she's dealt with this. It's the third time. And it's not just inconvenient, it's very discouraging that it keeps coming back. And so if you get the chance, if you remember, please pray for Yasmin and pray for our family. I also wanted to take the time, though, to hopefully encourage you especially if lately you have felt like you are under attack. And let me explain that language. Ephesians Chapter 6. You probably already know where I'm going with this. Ephesians Chapter 6, starting in verse 10, says, "Be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places." What are you doing, Tristan? You want to show him your gloves? Mm-hmm. Come over here on this side. Tristan's going to show you his new gardening gloves. Hold those up for everybody to see. Aren't those nice? You're going to help me pull weeds with those?
Mm-hmm. Wait, okay. Right now we have to pull weeds?
No, not right now. Maybe in a little bit. All right, go watch your video. So back to Ephesians chapter 6. Starting out with that question, do you feel lately like you have been attacked? In explaining that language, using Ephesians 6 to explain that language. Tristan, can you turn it down a little bit? Can you turn it down a little bit? I'm not talking about physically attacked primarily, or verbally attacked primarily. I'm talking about spiritual oppression that can lead to spiritual depression. Because the reality that Paul is talking about in Ephesians chapter 6, he starts out by saying, put on the armor of God so that you can stand firm against what? The schemes of the devil. There is an adversary who is active and who is at work, who would seek to stand against God's people. And he, the Satan, the adversary, the accuser, he has schemes He has plans. Plans for you, plans for me, plans for us. Because he wants us to stumble. He wants us to do the opposite of what Paul said in verse 10. Instead of looking for our strength and our refuge in the Lord, he wants us to look for our strength and our refuge in ourselves and our own abilities, knowing that we're weak and we'll stumble and we'll fall if we don't seek refuge in the Lord. So that's the first thing to recognize. Satan has schemes. And if you feel like in your life you are being attacked, especially if it's in your workplace, maybe there's like a hostile environment there, or in your community, maybe it feels like there's some tension there. Maybe just in your own personal walk, you're finding it difficult to pray, you're finding a lack of motivation to read the Word, or maybe you are finding it difficult to go to church and meet with your spiritual family. I believe that there's probably something behind that. And so if you're having issues at work, if you're having issues at school, if you're having issues in the home, if you're having issues in the community, most likely Satan has something to do with that. And here's why I think that is. It says in verse 12, our struggle's not against flesh and blood, although Satan would have us think that. Our family's been going through some really difficult things lately, not just with Yasmin's health, but in other areas of life. And our first inclination has been to blame people, to see other people as the problem or part of the problem. And that mentality, that perspective is playing into Satan's schemes. That's us living with spiritual blinders on. Because Paul says our struggle's not against flesh and blood. Yeah, there may be people who are opposing us, who Satan is using, but those people aren't the problem. Satan is. Because what we're really coming up against, what we're really in conflict with, are the rulers, the powers, the world forces of darkness, and the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. And so if you have felt attacked lately, whether that is in the church or with your faith, whether that is in your home, with your family, whether that is in your workplace, with your coworkers, in your community, whatever context it's in, take a step back and remember that there's something deeper going on. There's something beyond just what we can visibly see, what we can physically witness and hear, that is tangible. It takes spiritual discernment to realize what's really going on. And so I just want to encourage you in your prayer life, to be a warrior. In your prayer life, begin to do battle against the forces of darkness. And so that means, at least that's meant for us and our family lately, saying prayers that use the kind of language such as, we come against the spirit of hostility, of malice, of anger, of jealousy. We come against that in the name of Jesus. We come against the forces of darkness that would seek to pit us against other people when the real battle is being fought between the forces of light, the army of God, and the forces of darkness. And that kind of prayer and that kind of faith has helped my family not to focus on people as being the problem, but Satan and his schemes. And I know for some of you that is a challenge. It's a challenge to think in terms of spiritual warfare. And I say that because for so many years I was very skeptical about spiritual warfare. But when you feel like you've been attacked, when you feel like you've been oppressed, and that oppression has led to depression, this kind of thing begins to make sense. So know that you're not alone. And if you need somebody to pray with you, please reach out to me or to somebody who you know is a prayer warrior. And don't let Satan and his schemes turn your focus towards other people. Pray against him, not against them. Blessings.